The following is a presentation of the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.
We would like to welcome you to Audio Suplex Live, brought to you by the Nerd Complex Podcast Network. I know all I see is 3130.
Hey, how is everybody doing today?
The music's still playing.
We always talk over the music at the intro. That's why it fades out, so that we can... Oh, there we go.
Almost.
So if you guys are watching this on YouTube, you can tell that this is what I like to call a meat and potatoes episode of Audio Suplex Live. It's literally, it's down to the brass tacks here, Corey. It is Corey. It is me. It is Joe. And we are talking about wrestling. That's it. That's what Audio Suplex Live is at its core.
Wrestling.
Yeah, just a couple of dudes being guys, you know?
I'm trying to get a spinoff show that's about Seinfeld.
Really?
No, I haven't tried that hard, but...
Seinfeld Suplex Live?
No, nothing that clever. Audio Seinfeld Live.
Audio Seinfeld Live. What would that show be about? Would it just be like...
It'd be about nothing.
Would it just be like, but like, would it be like you just going back and rewatching like old Seinfeld episodes in order?
I wouldn't have to go back and rewatch. I watch them every day.
Do you really?
I always watch Seinfeld.
I've never been a Seinfeld guy.
What?
I'm sure we could get Seinfeld on the show. I mean, he's not doing anything these days.
He's getting coffee with celebrities in cars.
He's got a good gig doing. Yeah, have you watched that?
No.
It's fantastic.
He just interviews people.
It's really good, actually. It's just him in a different car.
They're like usually weird, fancy, old.
Yeah, because he has like a massive car collection. Like it's insane how big his car collection is.
He's like, yeah, they made 23 of these. So
yeah,
I'm just driving this one around.
Yeah, and he'll go like pick up like a different stand-up comedian, and then he'll just drive around, get coffee, and just talk, and it's fantastic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
yeah.
But we're not here to talk about Jerry Seinfeld this week.
We should be, but
we're here to jump in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, this pay-per-view took place before the show Seinfeld even aired.
Yeah, when did Seinfeld originally air?
89 is when it came out. This is 1988, isn't it?
Nope, 1989.
Oh my God, this might be the same age.
Which came first?
This is July 23rd.
Okay, I'm looking up Seinfeld right now.
They might have came out.
Seinfeld came out in 89?
Yeah, man.
There's no... Oh, God, it did.
I told you, bro.
Holy cow. When was the first episode aired?
I wish
Let's
I knew.
see here. I'm looking. Original release, July 5th, 1989.
Oh, my God.
Wow. So this
is July 23rd.
You are wrong.
I'm within 3 weeks.
Seinfeld started airing literally earlier in the month from this pay-per-view.
There had been 2 episodes that had aired so far.
That gives you some interesting context to like where the world was at this time. Yeah.
Yes.
Now that I know that Seinfeld started airing around the same time, this pay-per-view seems a lot more dated.
It makes more sense with that cell phone that Paul Heyman is walking around with.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Freaking brick.
His gimmick, his oversized cell phone. I love that gimmick.
Those gimmicks are weird.
So great.
We'll get to that.
So yeah, we are here today to talk about the Great American Bash 1989, widely regarded as one of the best pay-per-views that WCW had ever produced. The card itself is stacked from top to bottom. There are, I believe, 9 matches on the card proper. It's literally like the card. We'll get into this a little bit. Is an actual who's who of like professional wrestling.
Yeah,
there's
weird.
and to see where some of these people would go later in their careers is just absolutely absurd. So
it's mind blowing.
So a little bit of background on the event. It did take place July 23rd, 1989 at the Baltimore Arena in Baltimore, Maryland. Apropos.
I've been to Baltimore before.
How is it?
I didn't like it.
Is it anything like The Wire?
Yes. Surprisingly, it's not far off from The Wire.
Yeah.
It's slightly, it's like in the same realm as like Philadelphia for me.
I will never understand your distaste for the city of Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a fantastic city. I might be a bit biased having grown up in the shadow of Philadelphia in my adolescence, but
you grew up in the shadow of a lot of things.
Yeah, well, you know, now I'm out of the shadows and I am here. I am here in full glory.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Philadelphia's all right.
The show was produced by the National Wrestling Alliance, so we're still in that kind of like gray area where the NWA still kind of owned WCW. WCW was essentially like their biggest show that they had going.
Right.
So it wasn't quite officially WCW yet.
All the belts are the NWA belts.
Yes,
no
yes.
WCW championships.
But when WCW would break off in, I believe, 1993, they basically took all those belts with them and said, okay, these are our belts now. So that's why Big Gold, which is the NWA title at this point, would eventually become the World Heavyweight. Would become the WCW title.
Didn't it just come out right before this pay-per-view?
I believe so. I'm going to look that up. So, Corey, while I'm doing that,
yes,
tell us a little bit more about the background of...
Well, so one of the main events, I would say there's probably two main events in this card. We got Ric Flair and Terry Funker competing for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, but there's a War Games match that we're going to be talking about, which is a unique match style. I don't know if this was the first, probably not. No.
There were, I think, like 5 or 6 War Games matches before this.
It's just a double Hell in a Cell match where you slowly introduce your opponents.
For the uninitiated, it's almost like a combination of like an Elimination Chamber match and like a Hell in a Cell. At this, with pretty 2 rings.
Pretty much, yeah.
The Big Gold belt was actually debuted in 1986. So 3 years previous to this, they retired the classic NWA title.
In 86?
Yeah, in 86, and then introduced the Big Gold belt, which is like what everybody thinks of when they think of WCW. So like that is like the belt. So
I don't know. That's my favorite belt, and I don't like WCW. I don't get that.
Big Gold?
It looked good on Triple H.
Yeah, but you gotta think back to like when Hulk Hogan had it, when Sting had it, when it was the WCW title.
I didn't watch it then.
You messed up.
The other interesting thing that happens during this pay-per-view, there's a 2-ring King of the Hill Battle Royal.
Yes.
It's a Royal Rumble, or it's a Battle Royal. They all start in 1 ring. As you get eliminated from the first ring, you move to the second ring. And the winners of those matches compete. And the winner gets $50,000.
$50,000? Unheard of amounts of money in 1989.
$50,000 is equivalent to $14 billion.
You actually just made that up. I thought you actually went ahead and did the homework for that.
In American
$50,000,
dollars.
1989 inflation. I'm looking this up right now. I'm actually curious.
Into 2,400 yen is what it equates to today.
Today, that would be the equivalent of $179,000.25.
What did you say?
100,000.
Yeah, you don't know how to read numbers.
No, yeah.
100,000, 120 something?
79 and 25 cents.
179? So $100,000.
Yeah, basically.
Doubled.
And change.
Double the value.
Insane. So that's still a lot of money. The event was attended by just north of 14,000 people. They said a couple times on the commentary that it was a sold-out show.
14.5.
Yeah, so 14.5 thousand people attended. With inflation, that would actually be 14 billion people today.
How many people would that be in today's numbers?
14 billion attended the show. But yeah, so if the introductory battle royal and the War Games match were any indication, a lot of the match stipulation types at this time were so just convoluted with stipulation.
Yeah, and a lot of explaining needing to be done by the commentary team to explain the rules over and over. For the NFL fans amongst us, I would have liked to see like an Ed Hockley type come out and like explain the rules of these match types in like excruciating detail, because that was almost like necessary for these 2 matches. So yeah, it's really strange just because those aren't even. I don't know, the double ring really is confusing. I felt like they were switching back and forth at the beginning of the pay-per-view between them, and then all of a sudden they just stuck with the dirty ring. I can't speak for WCW booking at the time, but I almost guarantee that Battle Royal was just a byproduct of, we need 2 rings for the War Games match. Why don't we come up with something else that we can use the 2 rings for? Right, and then... Right. And the let's throw all these guys in. Most of these guys wrestled twice that night. Yeah, so let's jump right into the first match of the card. So it's the King of the Hill 2-ring battle royal match. In this match, we have, in no particular order, Sid Vicious, Dan Spivey, Eddie Gilbert, Terry Gordy, Scott Hall, Bill Irwin, Brian Pillman, Ranger Ross, Mike Rotunda, Ron Simmons, Rick Steiner, Scott Steiner, Steve Williams, and Kevin Sullivan. Now let's put these into the names that we may know them. Scott Hall, for those of you who are not familiar with that name, that's Razor Ramon. That's Razor Ramon's fake name. Unreal. Unreal. Let's see. Famous from DDP Yoga. Mike Rotunda. Mike Rotunda is... His real name is IRS. His actual name is IRS. Mike Rotunda is just a gimmick name. Ron Simmons' name is Farouk. Damn. Farouk, maybe you know him as Farouk. Scott Steiner, Freakzilla is his real name.
Yes, Big Papa Pump, if you will.
Who else am I missing? I don't know if these other people were.
I mean, there's a couple people who want to obviously.
Sid Vicious.
Sid Vicious is well renowned. It's a who's who in here, really. I mean,
who's Dan Spivey?
Dan Spivey was interesting for a number of reasons.
So he was the Bray Wyatt guy.
Yeah, he was in a tag team at this time with Sid Vicious. They were known as the I believe it was the Skyscrapers because of their height. Very clever.
6'5".
Dan Spivey would go on to work for WWE at one point around like 1995, 1996 under the Waylon Mercy character, which is super cool because that was like, go back and watch some of the Waylon Mercy stuff on YouTube. It's a precursor to the Bray Wyatt gimmick. So he's got that kind of like creepy, kind of like Southern preacher kind of thing going on.
Very similar, although I don't think he actually did much with it, right? It didn't really
take off.
Long.
No. I mean,
I don't remember him having any followers or a family or anything like that. But as far as the look,
the gimmick was fantastic, though. I've watched some of the Dan Spivey Waylon Mercy stuff, and it's fantastic. Like, I absolutely love it.
It's kind of creepy.
So as Corey had mentioned previously, the rules of this match are everybody starts out in the one ring, and it's a battle royal, over the top rope battle royal. And as you get thrown from one ring to the other, you are then eliminated from the first battle royal. Once the second ring,
14 guys in this match.
Yeah. Okay. Once the second ring starts to fill up, then you have a second battle royal in the second ring, and then basically it's over the top battle royal again. And then once you are left with one person from that one, they take on the winner of the first battle royal in a match to determine who wins the $50,000 purse.
Now this is the first match of its kind, if I'm not mistaken, right?
First and only, I would hope.
Okay.
Based on how convoluted.
And the way that it ended, they chose the worst way to end. You'd think it was a first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match, how badly this match ended.
So the match ends.
Who's the winner of the first battle royal, we should say? That would be Sid Vicious, right?
Sid Vicious wins the first battle royal. And then once the second ring fills up, it ends up with, I believe it's Dan Spivey wins the second battle royal. And then we're introduced to their manager, who is known to WWE fans as Theodore Long, or in WWE terms, Teddy Long.
Teddy Long, yes.
Teddy Long
had recently been fired for being a referee.
Yes,
and decided to become a manager.
Yeah, fantastic manager, by the way. If you get a chance to go back and watch this show, guys, Teddy Long's hair is
Check out his teeth too.
His teeth and his hair are doing some type of thing on this show. Like, it is a sight to be seen. Teddy Long comes out and or Theodore Long, I should say, basically comes out and says, "Hey, well, hold on a second, playa.
We're gonna make a tag team match."
Brings out the Undertaker, and then they all fight the Undertaker.
It's not as crazy. I mean, the real thing is pretty crazy.
No, so go ahead.
No.
So Theodore Long comes out and says, "There's no way I'm letting my two clients, the skyscrapers, fight each other. They split the $50,000. Each of them gets $25,000, or in today's terms."
Slightly over $50,000.
So
if none of y'all spend this money for 17 years, you'll double your money.
just put it away, and
I don't know if that's how it works.
Into an escrow or something like that. Is that how an escrow works, Joe? None of us are adults, so we don't know. So
all right.
An auspicious way to start the show. The match is a little north of 10 minutes. It's just a little opening contest to kind of get the fans hyped. There's really no...
I was probably most excited for this match out of almost any of the other ones because I'm like recognizing people slowly. Like, my God, I know who that guy is.
You're sitting there just like pointing out. I mean, obviously, like, so I took notes when I was going through this because this is a stacked card from top to bottom. So one of the things that you and I were talking about when we were watching this is I was like, wow, I wonder how many like Hall of Famers are on this show.
Did you look this up?
I actually did. I wrote down each and every Hall of Famer that was on the show.
Beautiful.
So in the first match, we have Terry Gordy, who is in the Hall of Fame as a member of the Freebirds.
Never heard of them.
You'll hear about them later when we get to the War Games match. Scott Hall, obviously a Hall of Famer as Razor Ramon, and then Ron Simmons, another Hall of Famer.
Damn.
So yeah,
that's it.
For the first match, yes.
Oh, okay.
Believe it or not, so I thought it was a lock that the Steiners were Hall of Famers, and we're saying WWE Hall of Fame. I know there's other Hall of Fames out there. The Steiners are not in the Hall of Fame.
They will be.
I would hope eventually.
Well, maybe not.
Scott's not a big WWE guy.
He talks a lot of shit.
Yeah, and he backs it up too because he's.
Listen, Vince McMahon, I'll come over here and I'll show you my muscles. I'm a freak.
Is that your Scott Steiner?
That's not a good Scott Steiner.
All right. So what's the second match of the official card?
We got Bill Irwin who was in the first match, and Brian Pillman.
Flying Brian, man.
Frying Brian.
Frying Brian.
They're competing in a singles bout. Brian Pillman looks amazing. I did not realize how good a shape he was in.
Well, I think for a lot of people our age, our first introduction to Brian Pillman is like that the twilight of his career when he was in WWE, like at the beginning of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, Stone Cold.
Yeah, he had the whole angle with Stone Cold, obviously playing off of their former affiliation as a tag team. He was in the Flying Brian gimmick until about 1993, and then he formed the Hollywood Blondes with Steve Austin. And then that basically progressed them into where they were right around the time of his death, up until about like 1995, 1996. When did he die? He passed away, I want to say, in 1997. Yeah. So yeah, Brian Pillman. A lot of our introductions to him was later on in his career.
Yeah, I wasn't watching WCW back in 1988 because I wasn't alive when this pay-per-view happened.
So a lot of
oh, this is 89. Never mind, I was alive.
Yeah, a lot. I was gonna say, bud,
a little bit.
Yeah, it was just interesting to see Brian Pillman at like kind of like the beginning of his career, and just to kind of know where he ended up as, going from this to forming the team with Steve Austin as the Hollywood Blondes, and then going on to, feud with Austin, and then join the Hart Dynasty, or the Hart Foundation, I should say. Yeah, super cool. So,
and then this Bill Irwin, was that he had a cowboy gimmick?
In WCW, he actually had the cowboy gimmick, but he actually went on to become the Goon in WWF.
Gimmick.
So if you want to, you can bemoan how much you don't like WCW and how they did things, but he went from being a cowboy, which is admittedly a very generic wrestling gimmick, to he goes to WWF in 1996, and this is at like the heyday of them doing the whole like occupational gimmick. So like, this is what like Isaac Yankem, and so they legitimately gave him
Mountie,
a hockey player gimmick.
Man.
It was so bad.
What other jobs? The Butcher?
Yeah.
Abdullah the Butcher? Did he play a butcher?
I don't think he was a butcher.
He was called the Butcher for a different reason.
The match itself was a good little showcase for Brian Pillman. Obviously, they were really, I think the whole basis of the match here was to get Brian Pillman over and to kind of display his athleticism, which was on full display.
Well, yeah, he was the final eliminated from the first Battle Royal of the night. So him and Sid Vicious were the last two in the first Battle Royal, and he got eliminated.
Which is a good little David versus Goliath kind of thing, even though Brian Pillman isn't really that small, so to speak. He was billed at 6 foot 226. So
it's not bad. He wouldn't have been in the cruiserweight division.
No, he would not. Back in the day, he would have been, because I think it was like 225 was the weight limit for.
But he was 226, you said.
Yes.
So he wouldn't have been a cruiserweight. Back
he could have like skipped lunch one day and been in the cruiserweight division.
That's not how it works. They purposely build him.
Anyway.
What's our next match? Oh, Brian Pillman won, obviously.
Yeah, Brian Pillman picks up the win. A couple notes that I have from this before we move on to the next match. I did really like the spot, and you see this becomes a common theme throughout the night of like the use of both rings. Brian Pillman has like the first like real spot where I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. He starts the match out with a straight up crossbody from like one ring to the other.
Right, he hops over both sets of ropes.
Yeah, super fantastic. And then another interesting note, and this kind of plays into the whole like I like to see where people were then and where they ended up in their careers. Former WCW and WWE referee Nick Patrick is the official for this match. Nick Patrick infamously went on to become like the official NWO referee later on in his career, and then ended up becoming like the SmackDown head referee when the inaugural brand split took place, and had a match at Invasion against Earl Hebner.
I didn't like him. I liked Earl Hebner.
Well, you're a WWF guy.
I know.
So.
Did you like Nick Patrick?
I did like Nick Patrick.
He's so bad.
I was a big NWO guy, and like his whole shtick of being like the NWO referee was like fantastic, because it was like 1996, 1997.
So he
like,
would cheat for them?
Of course he would. Like, of course.
Fast count. Not call things when the heels were cheating.
Absolutely.
That's not a bad idea.
That's fantastic.
They should do something like that again.
The NWO had their own referee. How sick is that?
Brian comes out and he's like, "Hey, you need to stop. You need to call this down the line."
I was looking at his Wikipedia page, and they said that he infamously had the best probably night of his entire career when he refereed every match at the inaugural WCW NWO Sold Out.
Oh wow.
Yeah, every match.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, you're talking like he worked like a 2-3 hour show.
Wow, because you do a lot of spots.
Exactly. So,
wow.
Yeah. So you take back every bad thing you said about Nick Patrick.
Yeah, they probably did a bad job. We'll have to watch the pay-per-view and see how crappy it is.
Spoiler, that might be my next pick.
We're not picking WCW wins anymore.
Anyway,
okay.
Third match of the card.
Let's do it.
What do we got?
We got the Skyscrapers, who were in the first match, victors of the first match, taking on the dynamic dudes of Johnny Ace and Shane Douglas. Johnny Ace, of course, John Laurinaitis, you may know him.
Yep.
More recently, and Shane Douglas obviously
is the franchise.
The franchise Shane Douglas.
As a byproduct of this, I actually went back and watched the classic Shane Douglas promo when he won the NWA/ECW title. Mm-hmm. The whole throwing down the belt and declaring the ECW belt like a world title and stuff like that. And that's just another example of to see how far people, because they were a young tag team at this point. I want to say this is pretty early into Shane Douglas's career.
I mean, yeah, this is almost 10 years before the ECW thing happened.
Yeah, well, he made his
7 years, 8 years.
Yeah, he started his wrestling career in 1982, apparently, according to.
Wow.
So you're talking maybe 7 years into his professional wrestling career at this point. Still very young, Shane Douglas. Interesting tag team. From what I understand, they were. I kind of learned this in my additional research. They were really never able to get the dynamic dudes over.
Well, they didn't know how to really surf. They're not really surfers.
Yeah.
That was their gimmick. They were surfer
skateboarders.
Dudes.
They were skateboarder dudes.
You sure?
I'm almost certain.
I thought that they were skateboarders, and then that didn't work, so they became surfers.
I'm gonna do some.
They don't know how to skate.
Yeah. Well,
that's what it is. Then they don't know how to skateboard, and the fans saw right through it.
Yeah. So they were playing up. I mean, obviously they were the baby faces in this one. They were playing it up very heavily.
Very 80s looking attire.
Dan Spivey doing a lot of the heavy lifting in this match too. You didn't really see a lot of Sid Vicious in this one, Sid Vicious is very interesting to me because this is a really good example. There are points in the match when the crowd is chanting for Sid, like "We want Sid, we want Sid." Like he was incredibly over with the crowd, but Sid Vicious has won awards for being the worst wrestler in the world before. Like I sans maybe Hulk Hogan, I've never seen somebody as over, yet at the same time not being that good of a wrestler. So it was super funny to me to watch this. The crowd's chanting for Sid, and when he gets in, it's almost like he gets the hot tag as a heel, and the crowd pops whenever he comes in. But he's just not good. Luckily Douglas and Ace and Dan Spivey are able to kind of mask that a little bit. But I don't know, it's kind of interesting to me. So
he looks good.
Dynamic dudes. My notes I have here are the dynamic dudes are super lame.
Yeah.
It's just insane to kind
very
of
80s feeling.
Yeah, you could definitely tell it's very indicative
the rockers
of
almost kind of feel.
The other thing that was kind of funny to me about this one is the second appearance we have of the night of Theodore Long. This time he comes out to the ring. He's got a plastic crown.
Yeah, that's his thing he carries.
Yeah,
because you have to be a manager in WCW in the 1980s. You have to have a prop that you carry. It doesn't have to make any sense. You don't have to talk about it. You just have to wave it around.
Either a cell phone if you're Paulie Dangerously.
That's right.
Or a tennis racket if you're Jim Cornette.
Which whatever.
Which works. But if you're Theodore Long, apparently it's a plastic Burger King crown. He just kind of found before. Oh. There's a funny spot where they're filming the top of his head and stuff like that,
and it looks so bad.
And he's holding up the crown. He's no, this is what you need to be filming, and it's just super funny.
Rough.
Yeah. So once again, interesting to see where these guys all went. I wouldn't say
who won.
The Skyscrapers defeated the Dynamic Dudes in a 9-minute match. Yeah, it was some good spots though. It didn't wow me. It's not my favorite tag team match of the entire card, but it was fun. It was a fun little match.
The highlight of the evening is next.
Is this your match of the night?
No.
What's your? We'll get into that.
It's coming up. I'll tell you.
All right.
Jim Cornette, famous for his wrestling career, taking on
is he now?
Also known for his
wrestling acumen.
Yes, Paul E. Dangerously.
Both.
I had to look him up. I wasn't familiar with Paul E. Dangerously. Turns out he is Paul Heyman.
What?
He legally changed his name sometime in the 90s, late 90s, to become the man we know today, Mr. Paul Heyman.
What a career he's had, by the way. To start out as a manager.
Well, did you ever watch? They did a Paul Heyman documentary on WWE.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
He got into the wrestling business at 13 or 14, real young. He lied about his age. He snuck into some wrestling promotions.
He was a photographer.
And but he lied about his credentials, and he would sneak into things, and he was really super young when he got into the business.
That's crazy.
Because he was really adamant he wanted to be in the biz, so he did it.
Yeah, no. So he's had a career, man. Yeah, he worked for WCW up until about 1993, and then that's when he moved on to Eastern/Extreme Championship Wrestling. I mean, just look at it. His career has seen like literally every role in some capacity, as like a owner, as a owns a promotion, and as a booker, and as a manager, and as a
wrestler, as we saw,
wrestler
here tonight.
So this is an absolute insane match from start to finish.
Yeah, it's what did they bill it as?
It's a tuxedo match. Yep.
Tuxedo match. So they have to strip each other naked to win,
or at least down to their BVDs, as Jim Ross so eloquently put it during this match. We didn't even mention that.
Oh, good old JR
on commentary.
He wasn't as old yet.
No, he was good JR.
Good JR.
It's not quite good old JR yet. He's just good JR. He was interesting to see. He
was a bless. He sounded different.
He sounded a little bit higher pitched. You'll get that with these kind of things, either because of like the production of it and like how the things just kind of translated through sound.
Right.
And obviously being younger in his career, he had like little like I was picking up on commentary, little like glimpses into what he would become later with how much emotion he would put into his commentary, but it wasn't quite there yet. A lot of his color commentary or his play-by-play was just like basic play-by-play, just kind of like calling out the moves and calling out the spots and stuff like that. But it wasn't until later when he would like really start kind of putting that emphasis into and kind of like painting the picture of what the action was. So 6-minute long match. We have Jim Cornette, Paulie Dangerously, tuxedo match. They're just absolute insanity all over the ring. It's exactly
silly. Couple weird spots. There's some powder spots.
Yep, a couple of powder spots, which I don't know. It's in 1989. Paulie Dangerously is supposed to be a yuppie. I don't know if this is supposed to be some sort of like allusion to cocaine. I don't know. I don't think so, but
maybe
it's the 80s, man. Like the cocaine was flowing like water at this point, so you could just walk down to your corner store and get a little sack.
Get a little sack.
Yeah.
Travis always has a little sack.
So Jim Cornette picks up the W over Paulie Dangerously, stripping him down to his BVDs, as Jim Ross so eloquently put it. A couple curious spots in that where like Paulie Dangerously kind of like starts taking off his tie and stuff like that, thus making it easier to like disrobe him.
Well, Jim Cornette, only thing that was removed was his jacket. He left his shirt on and his pants. Paulie Dangerously had all that removed.
Yeah, so Jim Cornette picks up the W. All was right in the world, and nobody ever heard from Jim Cornette ever again.
If only that were true.
So before we get to the next match, we have a promo from Gary Hart, who is the manager for the Great Muta, basically hyping up his match later on in the night with Sting. This is kind of a curious little promo where he's just talking about he is meditating right now and getting
this guy. I didn't like this guy.
They really kind of like play up
boring.
It's 1989, so you got to remember if the dude's from Japan, they're going to make sure this dude is from Japan. So
he is from Japan.
Yeah. So he is meditating right now from the Orient. Curious promo, but that leads us into our fifth match of the evening, a Texas Tornado tag team match pitting the Steiner brothers, Rick and Scott, with their manager Missy Hyatt, versus the Varsity Club, Mike Rotunda and Kevin Sullivan.
I thought this was a good match. Sure.
Yeah, this is
entertaining.
This is a very
fast pace.
Very short. Oh my God, they come out on fire in this match. Like they just.
Well, didn't they fight before the bell rang? So maybe the match is longer than 4 minutes because they fought for a while.
Yeah, no, it was if you're looking for a technical masterclass here, this is not the match for you. It's literally just like an absolute brawl from beginning to end. There's some good technical spots with like suplexes as you get with the Steiners, but the whole match itself, all 4.5 minutes of it, is just straight up brawling. There's action on the outside, a lot of spots with Kevin Sullivan and Rick kind of paired off, and then Mike Rotunda, which makes a lot of sense because from a body standpoint, those two match up a little better. Like Rick Steiner and Kevin Sullivan have kind of like the same body
Scott
type.
And Rick have about the same body type though.
No, because like Rick's a little small, a little shorter, a little stockier, and then Scott's a little taller and little, more muscle.
Not really oriented. There. He wasn't that. I mean, okay.
Not quite. I mean, to the point that he did.
Friggzilla.
I'm just saying that Mike Rotunda at this point in his career and his physique matches up better with Scott Steiner, whereas opposed to where Rick Steiner matches up a little bit better with Kevin Sullivan, who's notoriously 4'2".
I don't think he's that short.
He's not actually 4'2". Kevin Sullivan.
I was rooting for the Steiners in this one. Myself.
This is like pre his Taskmaster gimmick, I'm assuming.
I don't know what that means.
So the Taskmaster was kind of like his gimmick when he essentially he was like when they brought in Hulk Hogan to WCW, Kevin Sullivan had the Dungeon of Doom, and his whole thing was like to like expunge Hulkamania from WCW, because that was like that's where you got that classic cave thing where it was super freaking weird. But I'm a big Kevin Sullivan guy. He was cool back in the day. He's Kevin Sullivan. I don't know what else. Yeah. Well,
who won the match?
The Steiners won.
Of course they did. He had the Michigan Wolverines jacket on.
Yeah, which we're not going to hold that against them, but
that's why they won.
No, yeah. Mike Rotundo was. I think they were trying to build as like a college wrestling versus college wrestling thing, but I don't think Kevin Sullivan went to Syracuse with Mike Rotundo, so it didn't really quite work out for me from that perspective. But
did they say that in a commentary?
Yeah, well they
were selling that.
They were kind of selling the fact that Mike Rotundo was representing Syracuse, because he even came out with like the Syracuse jacket on and stuff like that. He was known as the captain at this point, so.
Not a pirate gimmick, though.
No, not a pirate gimmick. So
maybe someday.
All right. So before we head into the next match, we have a rebuttal promo from Sting, cutting a promo
to rebut.
Yeah, to rebut the previous promo by Gary Hart cutting. Sting cutting a promo about the upcoming match between him and the Great Muta. I love this promo. It's super intense. It's Sting just kind of like at his like most surfer Sting. He's just like, whoa man, I'm like totally like ready for this match, and he just like walks off camera like halfway through it and just like yelling off screen of how hype he is, and
he doesn't get hype.
Sting
stays hype.
His Sting, little known fact, is actually the father of Mojo Rawley.
That's the thing that'll ruin Kurt Angle.
Yeah, that's actually what the text messages are about.
If only.
So
moving exciting. Yeah, what builds up to this NWA World Television Championship match.
You're a big TV title guy.
I like the TV title.
You like TV titles.
Yeah. Champion Sting taking on the Great Muta.
This is my match of the night.
Not the Great Moolah, which that's what I thought I was getting Sting versus Moolah. It was
I don't think they were doing intergender in WCW at this time.
Yeah, Muta is apparently not the same person. He is a man with red face paint.
The Great Muta, for the uninitiated, if you've never heard of him before.
Reminds me of
Tajiri. Legend of Japanese wrestling. He is the reason the amount of blood in a match is known as the Muta scale. So, like, I'm doing the research right now to make sure I'm not informing people incorrectly.
Yes, me and Travis watched this pay-per-view together not that long ago, and you gave me this information that I did not know.
So
as we watched.
It stems from a match that he had in 1992 in New Japan Pro Wrestling against Hiroshi Hase. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly.
Sounds right.
Where Muta and Hiroshi Hase basically like bled all over the place. Like the blood just like Ric Flair looked at this match and probably went like, holy hell, like what the hell are you guys doing?
And Ric Flair loves to bleed.
Yeah, as we see later on in the evening. But basically this whole that started what is now known as the Muta scale. So like when there's blood in a match, it's rated like, I believe it's 1 to, let me see here.
1 to Muta.
Oh, the scale begins at 0 Muta, no blood, with 1 Muta being the equivalent blood loss of the Great Muta during an infamous 1992 New Japan Pro Wrestling match with Hiroshi Hase.
So it's either, most matches are a 0.
Yeah, so basically like, yeah, so... fantastic match though. Super athletic display. Like I feel like you could put this match on WWE programming today, and it would be a very well received.
Yeah, it's probably the best wrestled match of the night.
Yeah, it fits the style of like kind of like what wrestling is now to a certain degree. A lot of like just mat based offense, with a little bit of high flying kind of mixed in there as well. Mm-hmm. Super fast paced match. The whole
ending threw me off. Because it was confusing.
A little bit. So the match actually ends on a controversy as both guys' shoulders were down for the 3 count. And they saw it pretty decently on commentary for as well as you can. It didn't really look that good on camera. But so it ends in like a double 3 count. It ends up that Sting won the match and retains the belt. But Muta and Gary Hart basically like take the TV title and bounce. Like they just
through
like,
the crowd, if I'm not mistaken.
They bolt out through the crowd.
So it's confusing because they couldn't pick a winner and Muta took the belt, but then they were saying Sting won. So it was just really confusing.
Which is kind of like how a couple of these matches end. Like I think there's a stretch of time in the 80s where people just got obsessed with like convoluted finishes to matches. So yeah, I don't know. Wasn't my favorite, but it was the match itself was fantastic. So go back and watch it. It's fun.
Match of the night. I agree.
Yeah.
Next match, we have someone who knows how to wrestle against someone who does not know how to wrestle. For the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship, you have your champion Lex Luger taking on Ricky Steamboat.
Fully in his Ricky the Dragon gimmick at this point. Even to the point of coming out to the ring with a Komodo dragon, dressed in a leather jacket. I noticed that again when I rewatched it the other night, that this poor little Komodo dragon has got like a straight up just like 80s leather jacket on.
I didn't notice.
I was like, I had to like think about it. I was like, one, I don't know if he ever came out with a dragon before. I'm sure he has. Two, is this something he did all the time? Like did like
Jake the Snake?
Like did the dragon have a jacket all the time? I'm not worried about the dragon because this is the 80s. Like you have Coco.
It's a real dragon?
Yeah, you have Coco Beware coming out with like a parrot. You've got like Jake the Snake coming out with a snake. Like this is like the heyday. The Steiners came out with a basset hound for whatever reason earlier.
Yeah, why not a
bulldog?
Yeah,
like
something that looks like them.
Yeah, or a Wolverine.
Wolverine.
An actual
dangerous.
rabid Wolverine.
But yeah, I didn't get the bloodhound thing.
Yeah, no, it was kind of weird. Like I'm assuming that they like decided like, yeah, we're gonna bring a dog to the ring with us, and then they couldn't get like. It's probably a situation where like, okay, we're gonna go to a local pet store and just get a bulldog real quick,
and then it's a bloodhound or a Shih Tzu.
It's like 7 o'clock. All the pet stores are about to close. They can't find a pit bull anywhere, and they're like, oh shit, we got to decide what kind of dog we're gonna get. Like, fine, just give us the
Jack Russell Terrier or bloodhound.
And they just settled on the bloodhound and just kind of made do with it.
Like, oh, he doesn't step on his ears on the way to the ring. Oh, interesting. But yeah, man. So he had a dragon, not a real dragon, a Komodo dragon, a little tiny lizard, a lizard, a big lizard. A
large lizard with a leather jacket. I'm hell bent for leather. I still can't get over this leather jacket on this lizard. Yeah, so I think this match, okay, so you had already alluded to it, and this is kind of in my notes here. Lex Luger stinks.
He's terrible.
Lex Luger
he was never good.
He
never got good.
No, he never got better in the ring. Like
Sid Vicious is better than Lex Luger.
Really?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah. Well, at least he got better.
We might have to put that on the Twitter. Have an ASL poll. Who's the better wrestler overall, Sid Vicious or Lex Luger?
Okay. Damn, I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it. Lex Luger was never as over as Sid. How about that?
I would agree with that.
People
I think
Sid behind Sid a lot more.
Sid had like that look that you could kind of get behind. Like he doesn't look like a destroyer.
The Jerry curl.
Lex Luger just looked like the guy that you don't want to talk to at the gym.
Yeah.
He's really just terrible. So Lex Luger is healing it up. So the initial stipulation on this match is that there was going to be a no disqualification match. Previous to the match, Lex Luger cuts a promo backstage and then also does it again when he comes out that basically says like, hey, I'm not defending my title unless we make this just a normal sanctioned match. So he wants to get the gimmick changed from no disqualification to
absolute disqualification,
which obviously plays a big factor into the finish of this match. I will say this to Ricky Steamboat's credit, he carried a very decent match out of this. Ricky Steamboat's offense in this was just on fire, especially right out the gate. Like he came out hot and got like that super hot start against Lex Luger. He's hitting him with literally
Did you call him Ricky the Steamboat?
Did I? I don't know. But he comes out like a house on fire. Match ends when Steamboat basically just kind of gives into the dark side, and Luger introduces a steel chair into the ring, goes to use it on Steamboat, wants to get himself disqualified, so he retains the title. Basically, Steamboat blows it up in his face and then just loses his shit.
Yes.
Grabs the chair and just starts going ham.
He does some work.
Yeah, he starts going to town on Lex Luger, getting himself disqualified in the process. I think he actually even hits the ref at one point as well. Two things about that. Like, one, it was interesting to see them just go straight on, like, you know, Ricky Steamboat just going insane because he was like a straight up babyface at this point.
But did this lead to a heel turn?
I can't remember if it did or not.
I feel like Luger had just recently turned heel.
I'm gonna look. What are your thoughts on this match?
Like I said with the intro, one of these men knew how to wrestle and one of them didn't. I don't like any match that ends in DQ. Obviously, I feel like it's a waste. If you're not going to book anyone to win or lose, then you're not going to book anyone strong.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It definitely was not one of my favorite matches of the night. I thought it would be all right, given Ricky Steamboat was going to be in the match, but obviously Lex Luger sucks.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that he retained his belt.
Let me see.
Via disqualification.
I can't actually Steamboat. I don't see anything about him giving having a heel turn after this. Interestingly enough, though, like when he was chasing Luger back up the ramp, he's like swinging the chair at him still, and he's like hitting the guardrail. And I swear to God, there were like segments where fans had their like hands on the guardrail and like literally moved them away at the last second.
Oh snap!
Yeah, like before there was a good chance that he was going to take somebody's fingers off with this chair. He was swinging hard too, like he wasn't like pulling the chair shots back or anything like that. He was going full go on these. So.
Hard in the paint,
so to speak. So this takes us into two backstage segments with both the teams for your War Games match, which is going to be your semi-main event of the evening. The only note I have on these, I like the Freebirds promo. It was fantastic. Michael Hayes can sell water to a fish.
To a camel.
The background for all these like backstage segments too also reminded me of something that you would sit in front of for like a school photo. It's got that nice little like gray white gradient kind of thing going on, kind of like that cloud filter on Photoshop.
It's probably double it as that.
Yeah, so like when
photographer like, hey, can we use your backdrop?
When they're not doing WCW pay-per-views, they're doing school photos.
This is Life Touch in the bottom. Oh my god!
Well, I didn't even really notice it until literally these promos, and I'm like, wow, I really just want to order like a set of like 9x10s of like a
9x10s.
It was 8x10s or whatever of a Road Warrior animal here.
Some 9x10s.
9x10s.
That's a weird size that no one's ever made for a picture.
Yeah, so let's get into the War Games match because there's a lot to unpack with this.
Okay,
so I've got the actual breakdown of how the rules work.
Okay, do the rules. You got the order everyone gets entered into the match?
I have it here somewhere.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah. All right, go over the rules. Let's do that.
War Games match consisted of two teams, either 4 or 5 men, facing off with each other in staggered entry format. So the setup of the cage consisted of 2 rings side by side with a giant ring encompassing rectangular cage that covered both rings, but not the ringside area. Doors were placed at far corners of the rectangular cage so the two teams could come in, didn't come into contact before they were supposed to. So basically, you have one big cage covering 2 rings, and I believe it's the War Games match consists of 7 periods. The first one-on-one fight in 5 minutes, and all remaining competitors from both teams are 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes long or something like that. So basically, the match starts out with 2 guys, and then it alternates.
Yeah, as far as the cage is concerned, let me just say this. Think of Hell in a Cell, but like half as tall.
Yeah, it's
because you couldn't really do a suplex in there very easily without the guy's feet touching the ceiling.
Well, there was a spot later in the match where the Road Warriors are setting up for the Doomsday device or whatever. You can't.
Yeah, there's no way.
One, they're trying to pick up Terry Gordy, who's like the tallest dude in this match, and 2, like there's nowhere to go. Like you can't even.
His head is up against the cage.
It was a very. I love War Games. Like I thought the match, as convoluted as the rules were, I love the concept because basically what happens is it's in the style of like an elimination chamber. Every 2 minutes, somebody from alternating teams goes into the match. Once all the guys are in the ring,
1 pinfall.
No, not even a pin. It's going to end on submission or when you just give up. So if one member from your team,
it's not a pinfall.
No,
it's only if you give up.
Yeah, so by basically submission or like throwing in the towel or whatever, just like quitting, telling the ref like yeah I'm done. So if one member,
that's stupid.
But it only can happen when both teams are in fully, and one member of the team can lose the match for the entire team.
Right.
So which obviously happens here, but so yeah, so
Jesus.
It's convoluted. Maybe this is because I'm a WCW fanboy and I kind of give them I like on paper the idea. I think the cage design could have used a little bit of work. WCW not known for really having the best steel cages.
Well, it was 7 o'clock. They got the crown. They spent all the time looking for a crown. They're like, oh crap, we need to get a cage too.
Well, no, they spent all the time looking for their dog. They couldn't find a.
Yeah, they had to get the crown. They had to get the dog. They had to get the cage together.
6:45. There's probably some poor WCW intern who's like, shit, I haven't found a cage. I haven't found a crown.
I can only find half a cage. He's like, just make it shorter.
So he literally looks across the street, sees like a scrapyard, a Burger King, and a discount pet store, and just go boom, boom, boom. Shitty cage, Plastic Crown, Basset Hound. That's
wow. Baltimore, Maryland has it all.
Yeah, it's just like a Walmart.
Readily available everywhere.
Yeah. So this match, if it sounds like absolute chaos, it kind of is. Not to mention, you also have 2 managers, I believe, on either side. So you have the first team is made up of the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, the Midnight Express, which is at this point Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane, and Dr. Death Steve Williams with their referee, beautiful, precious Paul Ellering.
He looked good.
He looked very good, and Jim Cornette representing the Midnight Express. Yeah. Going up against the Fabulous Freebirds. At this point, they were, I want to say it was Michael P.S. Hayes, Jimmy Garvin, and Terry Gordy. And then the Samoan SWAT team, which is Samu and Fatu for the uninitiated. Fatu would later go on to hit Stone Cold Steve Austin with a truck.
He would go on to become Jimmy and Jay Uso's father.
And nothing
shortly
else.
after this, actually, they might have been born already.
When were they born?
I don't know. Are they younger than us? Or older
I'm
than us?
looking up, so fill time. Talk.
I think they're older than us. I'm going to go ahead and guess that they're older than us.
They were born in 1985, so the Usos were, what, 4
Baby
years
Uso.
Old? 4 years old at this time.
Baby Uso. Father Uso, better known as Rikishi.
Yeah.
Or Fatu.
I did it for the people.
I did it for my rock friend.
I did it for the Maharaja.
The Maharaja.
So, yeah. Final match of the undercard before we get to the NWA World Title match. This match is
follow.
Absolute chaos.
Hard to see. Because of the cage. Back in that day, they didn't really figure out how to properly videotape cage matches.
Yeah.
It wasn't the worst I've ever seen because they did have a cameraman in the ring. In the cage.
No, they did.
All?
They did.
Or at least the cage had a split where there was a camera in the
middle.
middle.
They straight up had a cameraman.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, because I remember we pointed it out when we were watching. Like, wow, they have a freaking cameraman in there with them. Yeah. Holy shit.
We better be careful.
So the match starts out with beautiful Bobby Eaton and Jimmy Garvin in the ring, which will play into the finish here, basically, because those two being like the longest ones in there have like the more likely chance of you flipping me off?
You just flipped me off.
I was scratching my mustache and
so was I.
My middle was the only one available.
Oh God.
Anyway. So basically at that point Dr. Death is the next person in. He immediately jumps on Garvin and Gordy. No, Gordy, so Terry Gordy comes in third. They start double teaming on Eaton until basically Dr. Death comes in, basically evens up 2-2.
Did he go by Dr. Death at this point?
Yeah, he was Dr. Death Steve Williams at this point. Then that is followed in by Samu. Then Animal from the Road Warriors is next after that. Fatu is next after that. Stan Lane is next after that, and then Michael P.S. Hayes is the last member. No, Hawk is the final one. So Michael P.S. Hayes, and then Hawk is the last one to come in. So
wow,
at this point, all of the guys are in the ring. It's pure chaos.
And you got the guys outside the ring.
Yeah, and you still have like 3 managers on the outside the ring. There's a really cool spot where Paulie Dangerously is trying to like push his phone into the cage. I don't know if you saw that. He's like trying to like push it through like one of the holes in the cage and it won't fit. And he's like
way too big,
getting visually frustrated. And like the referee comes up to him and goes like, gives him this like look of what the hell are you doing?
He's gonna make a collect call.
He wants his guys to be able to like
1-800-ATT. Call ATT.
So yeah, there's a couple spots that I really like. There was one where I want to say it was Dr. Death picks up Terry Gordy and is literally just gorilla pressing him into the top of the cage. Oh my god, that was so funny. He hit like 8 reps of it, just straight up just like pushing him on the roof of the cage. And that's how short this cage was, because Dr. Death is not like...
He's not tall at all.
He's not the tallest dude in this match by any stretch of the imagination. No. He was definitely not.
He was definitely not.
I was going to look it up, but I really don't care. Yeah, so the match ends when Road Warrior... I want to say it was Road Warrior Hawk. Yeah. Road Warrior Hawk, I believe. He gets Jimmy Garvin, in like a Hangman's neck breaker and makes him submit. Correct. So
just kind of pulling on him like, ugh.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because one, Garvin was like the first person in the match, so he was in there like the longest. So
it made the most sense.
Made the most sense from that standpoint. All the other guys are in the other ring, still kind of going at it. So like it was that little bit of isolation, which allowed the face team to kind of pick up the win here. After the match, basically the winning team starts to like exit the cage or whatever. Road Warrior Animal is left in the cage, and then basically like the heels like close up the cage and just start beating the shit out of them, which is super cool. Eventually the face team gets back in, chases them off, and then we are left to
our grand finale's next,
the main event. So
overall, it was an exciting match. It was a lot to follow, and you had to pay attention to the rules, and I don't know. It was interesting though. It was interesting.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it, and it was cool seeing all those guys who, like I said, you recognize them. Like, oh, holy crap, this is them. 10 years before I knew they existed.
I haven't updated the Hall of Fame check lately because we've had a couple other Hall of Famers here.
Rikishi.
Maybe I'll just do once we go through the entire card, I'll just go down like who all the Hall of Famers are. Yeah,
because we're about to talk about some.
All right. So speaking of Hall of Famers, our main event. Two Hall of Famers. One of them twice over.
Double time.
Yeah.
Double duty.
Your NWA World Heavyweight Champion Ric Flair is defending his championship title belt against Terry Funk. And I remember watching this with Corey. Like at this point I didn't know who, because Ric Flair has
never heard of Terry Funk before that.
Well, no, never before this. But Ric Flair has obviously flipped between face and heel probably more times than I want to say anybody. Just like
Big Show.
Yeah, maybe like Big Show might have like given him a run for his money, but I didn't know whether or not who was like babyface and who was heel at this point going into this match. We find out within 3 seconds as soon as Terry Funk comes out, and he like starts raising his arm and like trying to like, tell fans to back up or he'll smack the shit out of them and stuff like that.
Yeah, because we didn't know any of the pre-story going into this. Yeah. I didn't look up anything online about this match or about this card at all.
There is a backstage interview with Ric Flair previous to the match where he they're talking about a neck injury that kept him out of wrestling for a little bit, and this is actually his first match back. So that does play into the match a lot here, with Terry Funk kind of working the neck is like a constant theme in this match, setting up for the pile driver, which is like a really big thing in this match. The commentary is like pushing the pile driver as like that. If Terry Funk hits his pile driver, this match is over with the injured neck of Ric Flair and this, that, and the other thing. So, yeah, I mean,
very well done by the commentary team.
This match is exactly what you think it would be a 1989 match between Terry Funk and Ric Flair would be. Like it's not going to wow you. There is like it's just textbook classic.
They both have their moves. Everybody hits their moves. He gets the chops. They do the.
Everybody gets their shit in.
The figure four is going to happen.
Yeah.
On some of the worst knees probably in the business, Terry Funk's knees are.
Had he retired yet at this point, or
he probably had retired before?
Yeah. Terry Funk, man of 1,000 retirements.
He's retired more times than Ric Flair has changed between face and heel.
You think so?
I
actually want to. I want to get
He's probably wrestling still. He probably is. He probably is going to be like, I still got one more match.
Mr. Funk, if you're listening to this, Godspeed.
Hopefully God will give you some new knees.
God bless you. Starts out hot. They start fighting on the outside of the ring before the match even begins. Like they're really pushing home that this is like a blood feud between these two.
And lo and behold, we found some blood.
Oh yeah, this is I think our first actual blood of the entire show, wasn't it?
As far as I can recall.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to have a match with Terry Funk and Ric Flair, you would better bank on there going to be being some blood.
Somebody's bleeding.
I will say this, though. I would never, I'm not a wrestler. I don't want to say that a blade job looks really bad, but Terry Funk's is probably one of the most painfully obvious bladings that I've ever seen in my life. Because there's a spot where it's a little towards like the finish of the match. Terry Funk brings in the branding iron and goes to hit Ric Flair with it. Referee's distracted. Rick gets his hands on the branding iron, smacks Terry Funk in the forehead with it. Funk sells it to the outside, and he's literally laying on the canvas with like his one hand over and his other arm, and there's a clear camera shot of his arm wiggling, and you're like, dude, holy shit.
Digging into his own
forehead. He is bleeding so hard right now. Like, it just it was a camera angle that really kind of mucked up the whole thing, but it's just painfully obvious. So at this point, they're both like a bloody mess. Ric Flair had been busted up earlier in the match. Ric Flair
he turned into a redhead by the end of the match.
There's something about,
you see a picture of him, right?
There's something about Ric Flair. Oh yeah. I mean, literally the thumbnail for this episode, if you're watching on YouTube, is Rick.
Touch him. There he is.
Through the wonders of us doing just black and white.
Oh yeah, he's wearing a shirt of Rick.
There's something about Ric Flair's platinum white hair when that blood gets in it that's just iconic. Like it's just
done it so many times.
That's like the image of Ric Flair to me. Like it's just like white hair, tan body, blood, just all over.
I think of beat up leather. I see a buddy of mine has a real beat up, like a light brown couch. It's real beat up. And I just always think of Ric Flair when I see it.
Just put a robe on it and pour some blood, and you're basically in there. So the match itself isn't like, it's not a technical masterclass. It's not gonna like, reinvent the wheel. I actually meant to look up the Wrestling Observer ratings for these matches.
Oh wow, I don't know if they were.
Well, you talk.
Would they have been rated back then?
You talk about this while I'm.
Is that you're looking at Dave Meltzer or? Because I don't know if he was rating back then. He very well could have been.
Okay. So we do actually have Meltzer ratings for 1, 2, 3, 4 of these matches.
Sweet. Let's go through those, and then we'll talk about the.
Got to be kidding me.
We'll talk about the Hall of Fame people as well.
You've got to be kidding me. Okay, so we'll come back to this. This match ends basically in like the most WCW fashion of all time. Basically a convoluted ending where Terry Funk goes for a roll-up and then Ric Flair reverses it into his own roll-up, gets the 1, 2, 3, match is over.
Right.
What happens after the match is basically Muta comes back out with Gary Hart and they start laying into Ric Flair. So Terry Funk and Great Muta are now like lockstep with one another. They're beating the shit out of Ric Flair. You think of Japan,
you think of Texas, you think of them together.
Yeah, that's a classic combination. Kind of like, tuna and lamb.
Ric Flair, he's from North Carolina, right?
Yeah.
And then you got who Sting probably help him out. He's from California.
Yes.
Let's get those two together.
So the crowd is hot. They're chanting, "We want Sting, we want Sting," and then almost on cue, Sting comes running out to the aid of the man who would never turn his back on him again. Never turn his back on him again. I was actually trying to find this morning because I was doing some last minute research for this show. How many times exactly Ric Flair has turned his back on Sting? Because I'm sure there's got to be somebody who's done the homework.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist. So if somebody wants to do the legwork,
I got an idea for a show.
Yeah,
let's do a show where we dive into questions like that, where it's like, oh, let's look that up, or hey, here's the history of
like a stat show,
or we can break down certain gimmicks.
Yeah,
or like for example, I saw like someone do a breakdown of Broken Matt Hardy. Mm-hmm. So if I'm not a TNA fan, I don't really know about Matt Hardy. We can break that down.
So we do like
here's the details of what made this.
We could do almost like a whole lead in, just like we'll just like, okay, this episode is about Sting, and we're just gonna break out his entire career from beginning to end. It's kind of like summarize
stats he's completed, Meltzer ratings.
If only we had like a Twitter or Facebook where people could tell us whether or not they would like an episode like that.
That would be cool.
Yeah. So if you guys like that idea, get at us on social media. Let us know. Like,
speaking of that type of idea, let's go break down some things about the Hall of Famers in this. You said you found out the Meltzer ratings.
Yeah. So real quick before that, the end of the match, shitty roll up. Sting comes out. The show ends with basically Ric Flair cutting a really good promo
in the audience.
Yeah, in the audience, which is super cool. Like, I like the fact that he's basically just like out amongst the people. At this point, he's like a babyface champion. He's telling Terry Funk, like, we're gonna meet again, and I'm gonna whoop your ass. And it's a really good way to end the show. And he's
so Jim Ross there giving him the mic. Yeah, like, what's going on?
And when Muta initially came out, he actually misted Ric Flair as well, so you have this like really cool image, and it's also in our thumbnail, and you can't tell by the colors, but like, so there's this really cool image of like Ric Flair with like green and then red because of the blood, and it's like sweat, and it's like, it's a really cool image. And I told Corey when we were watching this, like, on a scale of like Jared Leto to like Heath Ledger, this would probably be my second favorite Joker if like Ric Flair were to pursue the role. He's looking like a badass right there. He's insane.
I wouldn't mess with him.
So, Hall of Famers on this show.
Let's go down the card here.
In the first match, we have Terry Gordy, Scott Hall, and Ron Simmons. It wouldn't be until the sixth match of the card that we would see our next Hall of Famer.
Paul Heyman's not in.
Paul Heyman is not in the Hall of Fame.
Jim Cornette's not in.
Sting is the next Hall of Famer.
Okay.
In our sixth match of the evening. Ricky Steamboat is our next Hall of Famer.
Okay.
The War Games match has the Road Warriors in the Hall of Fame. The Freebirds are in the Hall of Fame. Paul Ellering is in the Hall of Fame. And one half of the Samoan SWAT team in the form of Fatu, a.k.a. Rikishi, is in the Hall of Fame. And your final match has obviously Ric Flair, a two-time Hall of Famer, and Terry Funk, a one-time Hall of Famer.
Teddy Long.
He is a Hall of Famer as well. I forgot to put him down on
Jim
the list.
Ross.
Jim Ross is also a Hall of Famer.
You're missing a couple, bro.
There's a few on here that I kind of thought would be Hall of Famers. Notably, the Steiners would be one right off the top of my head. Kevin Sullivan, I would say, is a Hall of Famer, not to mention, because he wasn't really ever a WWF guy, but he had a long career as a booker. And
you don't all have to be WWF guys to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sting is obviously a huge, example of that. Brian Pillman, not in the Hall of Fame. Thought he would be.
I think he will eventually.
Yeah, kind of like a posthumous induction. Shane Douglas, I think, would be a good candidate for the Hall of Fame at some point. Dude, he's not the best of all time.
Maybe in a couple, like not anytime soon. I don't think they're gonna have to run out of people.
Such an influential career, though.
They'll have to run. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it eventually.
Cornette needs to go in.
Yeah,
Paul Heyman's a lock.
Paul Heyman is a lock.
Mike Rotunda, maybe. I mean, if you're gonna throw,
if they're gonna push his sons at all,
if you're gonna throw the Godfather in there, you got to put IRS.
I can see if they push Bo or Bray anymore, that they could use that as an add-on. Like, hey, we're gonna induct our dad.
Yeah,
there's a little extra push, especially if they go babyface.
Yeah,
who knows? I see that. Maybe.
There's a couple other Dr. Death I could see maybe at some point.
Again, that's another one where he'll build like a filler when they're like, oh, who else is really good that we haven't done yet?
It's gonna pain me to say this, but Lex Luger. Say what you will about his wrestling acumen, he is influential and people know who he is.
He's probably more likely than some of those other guys that we've listed.
Sadly.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So before we wrap this up, let's go over some of these Meltzer ratings.
Yes.
So what would you guess, Corey?
Sting and Muta would be the best.
Is the highest?
Or the Ric Flair, and I can see him giving Terry Funk.
What would you say is the lowest rated out of... Okay, so the four that have Meltzer ratings are the TV title match with Sting and Great Muta.
Okay.
The U.S. title match with Lex Luger and Ricky Steamboat.
Okay.
The War Games match.
Okay.
And the
Flair
Funk main event.
I'm going to say he give the highest rating to Flair Funk. I think it should have been Sting and Muta.
What do you think the second highest?
Second highest?
Yeah. Let's go from top to bottom. So top is, you say Sting, Muta?
My top?
I mean, what you think would be...
Well, your reaction makes me think that something crazy happened.
You want me to just tell you?
Just tell me what they are. I think Muta and Sting was the best match.
The highest rated match out of all four of them
My guess is Ric Flair.
Ric Flair versus Terry Funk.
Because it was the world title match.
4.5 stars.
What?
4.5 stars.
It was probably easier to get 4.5 stars back then.
The second highest, this is going to knock you out Games? This is going to knock you out of your chair. Lex Luger versus Ricky Steamboat with 4.25 stars.
That wasn't even a good match, and it was short.
I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. It was a 10-minute long match.
Okay, you're right. Whatever.
War Games was number 3.
Wow.
With a 4-star rating.
I wonder if the Sting ending of that match maybe hindered it.
3 3/4 stars for Sting versus the Great Muta, which I think I'm sure
it's a Japanese guy. How did he not love that?
I don't know, man.
That's interesting.
3 3/4. I don't buy it. But
wow, our opinion is irrelevant. Why do people even watch our show? We're nothing like Dave Meltzer.
No, one day
we're gonna have to start doing our own star ratings.
Yeah,
the ASL star ratings.
Yeah,
people are gonna quote us.
No. We're not.
What did ASL give them?
We're not even gonna give them stars. We're gonna give them something else. We're gonna give them something more. Sunglasses. We'll give them a
3.5 pairs of sunglasses.
3.5 pairs of sunglasses. We'll have Joe with the Joe rating scale. We give them 3 out of 4 coochers.
3 out of 4 coochers?
Yeah.
No.
We'll figure it out.
Why not stars?
Next week.
Buttons.
Next week.
Okay.
Luis Perez.
That's
from Northwest Ohio Wrestling is going to be in the studio with us. So that is something to look forward to. Sunday. You guys are going to be seeing this on Thursday. We're recording it on Sunday, but you're going to see it on Thursday.
Yes.
We will have Battleground preview special. So that's coming up when you guys hear this. It'll be in a couple days. So on Sunday. So you guys can join us at 1 p.m. for our Battleground preview special.
I should have worn my Maharaja shirt on at that show.
You're going to look like a scumbag.
Oh, my God.
Even though it's literally 1 week apart, you're going to look like a scumbag because people are going to be seeing this.
I'm not going to wear this. I'll have to order another shirt. Does he have 2 shirts on the shop yet?
Of course not. Who do you think he is? Enzo and Cass?
You know what? I'm going to order a shirt. So I need it by... What date is the...
Sunday. It's literally 1 week from today.
Oh, I probably can't get a shirt that quick, can you?
Maybe. I don't know. Expedited shipping. Do you have money like that? Are you just balling out of control like that?
How much is expedited? Like $15?
I don't know. I don't have enough money for it. I know that much.
Oh, I want a Revival shirt. I want to fuck the Revival shirt. No, I like the Revival. I want to Don't fuck the Revival shirt.
How about a frick the Revival shirt for the PG amongst us?
I didn't know you were PG.
No, we're not PG.
If a kid stuck around all the way to the end of this episode talking about 1989 WCW Great American Bash, then fucking great. Good job, kid. Tell your mom I said you could say that word.
So, yeah, you can join us here Sunday for our Battleground preview. And then the Louis Perez episode is going to be our last Thursday episode of Audio Suplex Live.
For now.
Then we are moving the show
to Sundays.
July 30th to Sundays in
the afternoon, right?
1 p.m.
Yeah.
So Sunday at 1 p.m. will be a new episode of Audio Suplex Live. We're going to be moving the preview specials into just being just episodes.
Correct. So if there's a pay-per-view that weekend, our episode's going to center around
the pay-per-view preview. So that way we can still kind of keep you guys abreast of what's going on in WWE. Now that we've kind of gotten away from the daily WWE happenings
I love
recap.
being kept abreast.
Yes. There's a lot of things I like being kept abreast is one of them. So so
exciting news.
ASL moving to Sundays. Joe, are you excited about the move to Sundays?
Hopefully this will free up some time for us to do some other content possibly too. So
yeah. So ASL working hard to bring you guys the best in wrestling content available. So
we'll still be doing specials.
Yeah,
we'll number our shows. Sorry, we'll number our pay-per-view episodes just like the regular episodes, but we'll still occasionally do a special.
Yeah,
if we see fit, or if we go to some crazy indie show that we want to.
I actually have got some stuff that we're coming up. I know myself and Matt, who is a friend of the show and has been on here many times, are planning on going down to the effing Catalina Wrestling Mixer.
When is that again?
I want to say it's August 5th. It's
I want to go to that.
Rockstar Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Revolver. They just announced that Shane Strickland is going to be on the card and on the match, so that's going to be fantastic.
What if they let us shoot?
Oh, that'd be fun. Maybe we'll have some fun content from that.
We should contact them.
Yeah. And then I know in October, I was talking to Ajax, another recurring guest on the show here. New Japan Pro Wrestling and ROH are teaming up again for a couple of shows, and they're going to be in Columbus October 14th, I believe it is.
That's the one I can't go to.
Because you are going to be having a child sometime.
Well, I won't be having it, but
your
I will
fiance
be taking
will
it.
Be, you'll be taking the child.
She'll be coming with it.
That will be your title.
Yes, I will be the first ever champion of my complex that I live in. Baby champion. Hopefully my neighbor doesn't mind.
Yeah, so we've got some cool shows that we're coming up that we're planning on going to and stuff like that. But you've already heard us talking for how long now, Joe? Probably about an hour or so. Yeah, so I didn't know we were going to get an hour out of that. That was fun.
We did it.
We'll hit you guys with another retro pay-per-view next month, sometime in August. We haven't quite decided which one we're going to do yet.
I did One Night Stand ECW 2006.
Okay,
I think it was the second, whatever the second.
Yeah, the one with John Cena versus Rob Van Dam.
Yes, that's the one we want to do.
John Cena is probably going to get like murdered.
I haven't seen that since it aired. I think I've seen clips, and obviously I've gone back because I've seen people talk about it, but I haven't watched it from front to back since it aired.
I can't wait. I'm actually really excited for that one. That will be fun. And then I'm sure I'm going to give Corey a break on the next one after this.
We should pick some stuff that people care about.
September.
No one cares about WCW.
September. Maybe I'll pick like another good WCW one.
Pick like no.
Like an I want to do an ECW
like
show.
Bad Blood 2002 or something.
Maybe we'll do
No Way Out
Invasion.
2004. Invasion was, you go back and watch it, it's not as good as
it. No, I could tell you that right now.
Well, especially you being a WCW fan, you're like, why are all the crap WCW guys here fighting?
Why
the
is
head honcho WWF guys?
Sean Stasiak is on this card.
Oh,
who follows us on Instagram, by the way?
Who was wasn't he the first?
He was the
WCW guy to win a belt.
No, it was
sure?
Mike Awesome.
He won
Mike
the
Awesome
hardcore.
won the hardcore title. So
Damn.
The Fat Chick Thriller.
So Sean Stasiak, he goes by Meat. He was Meat?
He was Meat. He was.
I remember Meat.
In fact, Meat.
I think I might have had an action figure of Meat.
That checks out.
And he had like little kisses all over his body.
Yeah, because he was paired up with
Tori Wilson.
Tori Wilson.
No.
Tori and Jackie. It was PMS.
It wasn't Tori Wilson. It was a different Tori. No,
it was Terry.
Terry Reynolds. That's
Terry Reynolds
Terry
and Jacqueline.
Reynolds. I was like, Tori Wilson was not there yet.
Oh man, but that's another show in and of itself. So we're gonna get out of here. Let you guys enjoy the rest of your wrestling week. You guys can get at us on Audio Suplex Live, Twitter, Facebook. If you have a retro pay-per-view you want us to review or think we should check out, leave us a comment.
Yeah,
let us know.
We'll look into it.
And we will catch you guys here next week with Louis Perez. Have a good week, guys.
See you guys.
Hey guys, we would like to thank the band Wax for our intro and outro music. You can check them out at waxoh.bandcamp.com. You have been listening to the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.
You've been listening to the Nerd Complex Podcast Network.